Welcome back to another episode of Four Down Territory. My name is Mars. Alongside me, as always, is Sam. We were absolutely treated this week with one of the best trade deadlines we've ever had in NFL history. Our attention to the games has almost gone completely out the window, Sam, because the deals that were going on last night were incredible. And I feel like our attention just needs to dive straight there, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, big shout out to the New York Jets for giving us some exciting moves and, holding their little fire sale to give us lots to talk about. It felt like, I feel like it often, was it last year where we had a very mediocre trade deadline? It felt like we were excited for all these players who were on the block. And then suddenly they weren't getting traded. And then we were like so disappointed by the end of it. But, it worked out this time, didn't it? It worked out. We got to see Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner being the big two, but like a bunch of other moves as well that were quite nice.
It could have been way more as well. There was multiple names that were listed to being potentially traded this week. Unfortunately, we didn't get them all. But from the standards that we've had, like you said in previous seasons, this has been by far the best one in a long, long time. Which is, it's really good. I think this brings a lot of light to the NFL in a positive way. The fact that teams are now dealing some of their star players mid-season just to really push for that final playoff, if that's the wild card, if that's going for your division title. If you look at like the Colts, they've obviously made huge moves. This is really exciting times now. But it does mean the regular scheduled FDT is just completely out the window. We're going to go completely different today due to the trades. But one thing that we will always continue on with is our stat of the week. Sam, hit me with yours for week 9.
My stat of the week, Miles. Tyler Shuck threw his first passing touchdown this week, didn't he?
He did.
Which was caught by none other than Saints tight end Juwan Johnson. Miles, did you know that those two were teammates on Oregon way back when, 6 years ago? When Tyler Shuck was in his early college days, because obviously this guy spent a long time in college. You got to fact check me.
True?
It doesn't sound right.
That's really
it?
good.
It doesn't sound right, but
oh wow, Juwan Johnson, 2019 in Oregon. Yes,
there
they're
you go.
on the same team. That's an awesome stat.
Yeah. So it's funny to think like rookie versus like what vet basically. Well, I mean, it's similar to the young Juwan Johnson, but 5 year.
5 years.
Yeah, and they were teammates back then.
That's
crazy,
awesome.
Man.
That's a really good one. I don't think mine's beating that, but the NFL started tracking points per drive in 2000, and the 2025 Bengals is currently the worst defense ever in regards to this stats. They are averaging 2.93 points per drive. The Carolina Panthers last season were currently the worst in regards to this stat through 9 weeks. If they continue to do this, it will be obviously the worst defense ever. If you compare them to every defense from points allowed per game, the closest teams to them are the 1963 Denver Broncos, the 1981 Baltimore Colts, and they are the only two post 1960 teams that are anywhere near them. The team leading it are the 1950 Baltimore Colts with 38.5 points allowed per game. The current Bengals are allowing 33.3 points per game.
My God.
So it's just historically bad defense being played in Cincinnati at the moment.
I'm a little bit sad because I had a great stat somewhere and I forgot to go back and get it ahead of the episode, but it was something along the lines of teams to give over 300 and so, I think it was 3. Off the top of my head, I want to say it was teams to allow over 330 passing yards a game and teams to allow over 150 rushing yards a game, something like those kind of numbers. But the point being that there was a certain amount of teams that in history that had done passing, and it was quite a small group. Certain amount of teams that had done rushing, quite a small group. Bengals are doing both. One of one, only team in NFL history to give up that many yards. Not a good week to be a Bengals fan.
Yeah, I mean, the season was already on edge with Joe Burrow going down, and you look at obviously what was the biggest need in free agency. It was defense. They didn't really address that. You now look at things going forward. You're not really challenging for the AFC North title. You still haven't got Joe Burrow. And you now lose Logan Wilson as well. Your captain of your defense. Things aren't really looking good for Bengals fans, which is quite frustrating for them. It can imagine, especially when you're in your Super Bowl window.
Yeah, you think what they were like that year when they made it to the Super Bowl, and they
Yeah.
were a surprise. They were surprised to be in the Super Bowl. We're talking about a wild card team going on the road and having to make their way through the playoffs. They did a great job towards the back end of the regular season. They were fantastic in the postseason. Get to the Super Bowl, were one drive away from winning it, and it was all excitement. It was all, what can they build on? How can they improve? And it's just not happened, has it? It's been nothing.
Yeah.
They've been to the AFC. No, they haven't been to the AFC Championship since, have they? I'm trying to think.
I think they have one.
Yeah, they've got. Yeah, I feel like the Chiefs beat them.
Have they?
And I feel like that was the conference round.
Yeah, because they lost to the Bills in that snow game, and then
that's right.
Yeah,
I
think
lost one to the Chiefs, which was not last year, the year before.
The year before. Yeah, so they're definitely. Well, I mean,
yeah, they've
been such a talented offense that you almost just feel like we're wasting it at the moment. We really want to see this team challenging. Well, I know I do, but I know you don't, for obvious reasons. But yeah, it's a tough watch. But we'll leave the Bengals for the time being, and we'll probably touch on their game ever so slightly later. But we need to talk about the trades that went on. Starting off with the blockbuster one that occurred last night. Sauce Gardner has been traded to the Colts, I almost said Baltimore Colts because we've been talking about the Indianapolis Colts for 2 first-round picks, with Adonai Mitchell going the other way. This is the second player already this season to be traded for multiple first-round picks, that being Micah Parsons, and is the second Jets player in 6 years to be flipped for 2 first-round picks, that being Jamal Adams.
Yeah, there we go.
Obviously, Sauce Gardner signed his massive contract at the start of this season, 4-year, $120 million, which is now being taken on by the Indianapolis Colts. Your thoughts on the move, Sam?
So we've disagreed a bit on the past on Sauce Gardner, haven't we? Where I feel like I've always been a relatively big fan of his. I think, one of the big comments I keep seeing is that there's 2 first-round picks for someone who's been subpar this season. I don't really understand where that metric is coming from. This is a guy that literally leads the NFL in the lockdown percentage metric of close coverage or whatever it is, of receivers not being open. So he's obviously still doing a good job in man coverage, and he is. I think I'm not going to go out and rank every cornerback in the league, but he's definitely one of the top ones still. Like, the Colts are getting themselves a top cornerback. I think it's an expensive trade. I think people are right to be worried about that. 2 firsts is a lot, and the Colts are obviously saying that they're obviously quite invested in this team, and they really do believe that they have a chance to go and win it all this year. I think they're not exactly deluded to think so. They're 7-2. I part of me wonders if the loss to the Steelers this week really shocked them and said, hey, we've got something here. We can't be losing it. We need to go and shore up this team with a blockbuster move to really take us to the next level. And I can't lie, this Colts defense, we said in free agency it was a good set of players, right? Adding Sauce Gardner to the mix, big fan. I got to say, I'm a big fan of what this defense can do going forward.
I think I'm a big fan of this season for the Colts. I think for obviously the longevity of it, it probably puts them in a sticky situation in regards to cap space. They'll obviously have to now move on from a few pieces in a few years' time, which is completely understandable. If you talk about winners in this trade, Sauce Gardner is a winner. He's obviously moved from a 1-7 team. He's now woken up. What was it? They're 7-2 now. That's brilliant for him. I agree with the point that he is a lockdown corner. In regards to his stats this season, I still wouldn't put him in my top 5 cornerbacks currently in the NFL. I think that's a fair statement with the way that he's been playing. There was obviously the clips of him being burnt by Adonai Mitchell being brought up on Twitter to say that you've just given up the player that's roasted your cornerback and gained him. But I think I love this for the Jets. I think this is a really smart move for the Jets. They need a complete reset of this roster.
Yeah.
Obviously, currently, the 2025 Jets, it's a complete L for them. They are moving on from this whole season, this whole team, they need a reset. But for the 2026 Jets, the 2027 Jets, and the future Jets, this is brilliant for them. They need a complete reset. A corner isn't the most valuable piece, one on the defense and two on the team overall. They could. We've spoken about the offensive line. They've obviously got very young tackle pieces. They need help interior as well. They won't address that with the first round picks. They'll do that later. They need a quarterback. That's the most important position on this team. You now have plenty of ammunition to move around in this draft and go and get one of the top guys, or your guy at the number one pick, and then go and grab him another weapon. Because if you look at weapons as well, Alan Lazard is currently a wide receiver too. You obviously have the young talent in Mason Taylor at tight end, but I'm looking at this as an investment for your offense. Take away some defensive pieces and build this offense. Make it a blockbuster, and then gradually increase your defensive depth. Like I said, for the Colts, very happy with it going forward. You've now built this. We were already impressed with this secondary. The moves that they made in the offseason, they got Ward. They've now got Sauce Gardner. Brilliant duo at corner. They're going all in. I think it's the right decision for them. And is it pricey? Yes, I think that's a fair statement to say. I'm surprised that it's both 2 first-round picks, but you have to take in the money side of things.
Yeah.
And in general, it's a pretty balanced trade for both sides, especially when you're moving on from Adonai Mitchell, who's barely getting any snaps for this offense as well. So a smart move for both teams, in my opinion.
Yeah, one of the things I hadn't seen. Here we go. So one of the things that I didn't know before was how Sauce Gardner's contract was going to go on with this trade, and it seems like the Colts will be taking on most of it, or at least
yes.
I don't know. Let's see. So it seems like they're taking on that deal, which is again, I feel like why the compensation was the way it was, but. Yeah, I think there was a lot of backlash over it, wasn't it? 2 firsts being too much for Sauce.
I completely understand that from the tagline of you giving up 2 first-round picks, but obviously when you dive deeper and dive into cap space, it kind of makes sense. From what it seems like, the Indianapolis Colts will be having later first-round picks, so you won't be having as much value to either of them. At the end of the day, you're getting depth guys there, and that's what the Jets need. They need solid depth. They can't be hanging on to these blockbuster guys for the longevity of their careers and not doing anything with them. I think it's the complete correct move for the Jets. And yeah, I'm quite impressed with the way they've dealt with this deadline in regards to a guy that rumored. Woody Johnson said that he didn't know the deadline was Tuesday night. So I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, I mean that's the trade then they needed to get done, was trading Woody Johnson to a retirement home. I think just to expand on what I said earlier about the contract, I'm just seeing here the Colts will pay roughly half of Gardner's base salary, which is 1.25 mil this year. They'll pay him in excess of $25 million in 2026, but the cap figure is a meager $9.5 million because option bonuses may be prorated over the life of the contract. So, cap-wise, not too many complaints for the Colts.
It was like for the Colts, the only real season that affects them is 2027.
That's right, yeah.
I was like, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, cap figure of 20.9 in 2027, which because of the bonuses and whatnot. So
yeah, that works out really well for them.
But then you can do your cap magic at that point, can't you? I tell you what, it's funny. We had a good conversation chatting in our group chat where the dead money came up into conversation, and just trying to explain that and having the conversation about it. They were like, it was quite funny just looking through it. It's like every year I feel like I'm researching how cap space works.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm slowly learning a little bit every time, but there's always some little term that you're just like, oh God, I'm not financially engaged enough to understand how any of this works.
No accounting degree.
Get me an accountant.
Been achieved from either of us. But I tell you what, some teams work their way around dead cap, and they do a very good job of it. We'll keep on the New York Jets because they also dealt defensive tackle Quinnen Williams to the Dallas Cowboys of all teams for a 2026 second round pick and a 2027 first round pick. I am baffled that the Dallas Cowboys were buyers on the trade deadline, Sam.
Well,
it's crazy.
So, one of the worst quotes of all time, I think, is what I saw last night, which was from big surprise, the notorious bad quoter, Jerry Jones, who had to say, he said that he wants to win now because and has a sense of urgency because of his age. Funnily enough, Miles,
Yeah.
he says, I've made some bad decisions, obviously. I'm supremely responsible for where we are right now. There's no question about that. That doesn't deter me from wanting to get it done and get it done now this year.
It,
Sorry, Jerry. Bit of a long shot, personally. I would say. I rate it, and I can't lie. Quinn and Williams is the kind of move they need on account of the fact that they have like the what is it like the second worst run defense in the league or something like that, and they're getting in a guy who's probably the what best, if not like top 3 run
yeah.
defensive tackle in the league to pair with Kenny Clark.
He's very good at defending the run. Pass rushing, though, he is probably the worst in regards to defensive tackle. He's currently ranked the 90th best defensive tackle
right?
in the NFL,
which is
by
mental.
PFF. Yeah,
that was one of his biggest strengths. It felt like a few years
ago. I'd
yeah.
say if exactly. If this was the Quinn and Williams of 2023, this is an absolute home run hit for the Dallas Cowboys. But we're talking about this current year for Quinn and Williams. Can you guess how many sacks Quinn and Williams has this season, Sam?
Oh gosh, 1.
He has 1 sack.
Yeah,
this season.
I think I remember that. Yeah,
he has 1 sack and 3 QB hits, which is pretty subpar for a defensive tackle.
I was going to say
that earns that type of money.
His reputation as well,
exactly.
and yeah, the contract number is a lot. And I also thought it was interesting that part of the trade was Mazzy Smith, who I didn't think, I thought he was a relatively underrated piece, but I think there's a lot of talk that he's get him out of town. He needs to go sort his career out elsewhere.
I think Mazzy Smith is more of a developmental project, and again, brilliant for the Jets. You have a defensive-minded head coach that will be able to develop a younger defensive tackle in Mazzy Smith. Fantastic for Aaron Glenn, fantastic for the Jets, fantastic for Mazzy Smith. For the Dallas Cowboys, we get back to this point, the fact that they are in no position to win now. There is still so many holes on this team. The secondary is beat up to all hell. They need a complete restructure there. They spent so much money on Deron Bland, who, watch the tape from, what was it, Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Oh my God, like Marvin Harrison.
Yeah.
He was fantastic against Deron Bland. The safeties are in disarray for the Dallas Cowboys. These are the positions that they needed to address. They didn't need a defensive tackle, or probably even they probably needed a middle linebacker, but we'll get onto that later. So yeah, it's a very interesting take. I get why Jerry Jones is now being selfish. The fact that he's obviously in the win now situation. It's obviously health reasons. He's been battling cancer for the last couple of years. There is reasons for him doing this. He wants to witness it. I just don't think this team is at the standard where they can win now.
I think it's honestly quite sad because I think we've seen in the past that some could regard Jerry Jones as a bit of an egotistical maniac, if we're being completely honest. And I think what we're seeing here is a guy who's saying, I want to see this team win, and I know I'm not going to be in this job for too much longer. Surely there's got to be passing down the role of GM soon. And I think, this is a kind of mortgage the future for now, and they're not in a position to mortgage the future. If a team like multiple games out of the playoff picture, especially when you think of how like on fire the NFC is this year, I think they're the first team to be under 500, and they're something like the 9th or 10th seed. Like there's so many teams just flying their way through the first half of the season that they've got so many games to catch up on already. And like you say, the defense just isn't there yet. I think the offense is great, don't get me wrong, but the losing to the Cardinals in the way they did this weekend is a big worry for me. Like that's something that just says to me they haven't done enough to fix this team and get themselves prepared for a better playoff run.
Also, another thing that I've just realized, it's actually the Dallas Cowboys 2027 first round pick as opposed to the Green Bay Packers first round pick. So you're giving up, let's be real, the Cowboys are going to go, the Packers are going to go further than the Cowboys in 2027. So you're giving up a better pick.
Yeah, an earlier pick. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's Jerry? Is it Stephen Jones? Is that his son?
Tom Jones.
Tom Jones, good singer, good singer. I
I don't
think
know.
it's Stephen Jones, but he's the one that's going to take the reins of the Dallas
Yeah.
Cowboys when it happens, and he will give himself GM powers like what his father done, Jerry. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, like what you said, where are they? 16, 15, 14, 13. They're the 10th ranked team in the NFC. There's no way that if you put them head to head against the Minnesota Vikings, I'm taking the Vikings. If you're taking them head to head against the Panthers, I'm taking the Panthers. If you're taking them against the Bears, no. Lions, no. So these are the teams that you've got to go and beat to get there, and there's no way you're winning your division over the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look good. It really doesn't look good.
No, I think I do think this is going to bite back horribly. It's too early to say, really, because having Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark on that D line, they've got young pass rushers on the outside. Maybe we see a really strong D line in Dallas. I don't want to be all doom and gloom. Let's show some positivity here. There could be something exciting going for them. It just feels like, as much as I, personally love a win now move, I love the, trade them picks. Let's go and get someone to take us into the playoffs, take us to a Super Bowl. This just feels like the wrong matchup.
Well, let's stay on topic for the Dallas Cowboys, because this wasn't the only move they made on the trade deadline. Logan Wilson was also acquired from the Cincinnati Bengals. I can't remember the compensation. I'm trying to find it out. A 7th round pick. Logan Wilson is a renowned, commander of a defense. I think this is in ways the smarter trade for them. They currently have Kenneth Murray, linebacker, who is dreadful. And I think upgrading to Logan Wilson is a smart play for them. Again, we go back to the conversation of this is the win now move. I honestly don't think this is a win now move. You can have Logan Wilson be your key defensive piece for quite a while. Yeah. This is a smarter pick. The fact that you've given up very little to move in for him, I think they've done a good job acquiring this. So in ways, fair play to the Dallas Cowboys for doing that. It's just what we've spoken about with the Quinnen Williams move. That's what everyone's going to be talking about.
Yeah, it is a better move. And I think, for the Bengals on their side, they're obviously just going to turn to the rookies, Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight Jr., who have, sort of taken over that defense, which is fine with them. But it's quite funny. I saw their I think their PFF ranks this season. And I know we know my opinions on PFF. It's not the be all end all, but I always find it quite a funny metric to go back to, especially when it's saying stuff like Carter and Knight are 92nd and 93rd out of 94 linebackers who played over 100 snaps this season. So, the Bengals obviously have confidence in them. And like I say, PFF doesn't mean everything. So this doesn't just mean that they're bad players. I certainly don't think Demetrius Knight's a bad player. I think he's been making some great plays this year. I think it is nice for the Bengals to turn to this young core so that they can, build off of it and try and remold that defense that's desperately needing fixing. It's interesting to see them lose a piece in Logan Wilson, but I did get the impression that Logan Wilson wanted out. So, especially with Jermaine Pratt leaving as well. So they basically lost their linebacker pair who'd been there for a good few years.
A long time, yeah.
Like all the way back to that Super Bowl team, I believe, actually.
It was, yeah, great.
And replacing them with 2 rookies. So they obviously wanted to flip that defense a bit. But Cowboys, this is probably the better move in terms of in terms of like team planning, I guess. At least they're not sending away the house to go get it. But I think one quick thing as well that we didn't mention with the Jets, we're now talking about 3 first-round picks in back-to-back years for them now. Yeah. So me personally, as much as I love the trade up and go get someone, I want to see, I mean, let's be real. This is probably, and I'm sad to say this because I really wanted my Dolphins first overall pick to come to fruition. This is probably going to lead to the Jets being the first overall.
It will be.
Obviously, there's like the Saints, and I'm still going to say the Dolphins are still there. But the Jets are probably the team that we're going to see picking first in the draft next year.
Yeah, I think
this means that they're on the clock for a quarterback, most likely, as it tends to be. Obviously, we don't know yet, but my point being is that if they can see a real standout quarterback they want at number 1, and they can go pick that guy and then have two supporting pieces, maybe one for the offense, one for the defense, and then next year you got 3 more first round pick worthy players. You've got multiple seconds coming up, so you've got this is really exciting for the Jets.
It is.
We're talking about basically turning a quarter of your roster into first and second year players picked within the first 100 picks potentially. Like this is really cool, and this could be really interesting to see how they can turn it around.
You just cannot do what the Browns did in the previous years where they've had multiple first round picks. You know, you've ended up with Jabril Peppers. You've ended up with, I'm trying to think of the corner they had in 2014. It was like Gilbert or something. Johnny Manziel. Yeah. Like they're the years where they've ended up with terrible players out of multiple first round picks. So the Jets cannot afford to do that. They are relying on home run hitters for at least 3 out of the 6 first round picks they have, which they're desperate for. And you know, I'm highly expecting them to trade up with, you know, they could combine the later 2 to move up, have 2 top 10 picks, which would be quite exciting for them to have. But yeah, it's looking, you know, maybe not the recent, you know, the near future is good, but the future looks really good.
I think you've got, I mean, this is the tough thing, right? So I feel for these Jets fans because it's not going to be a fun season to watch anymore. Like, we've accepted that. But, and I want to say, stay patient, look forward to the future. Man, they've been doing this for a long time. You know, how much longer can they hold out? I saw a really funny video of Jay Lawrence was going around the Broncos Jets game around the stadium, talking to people. Why do you support your team? And he finds these Jets fans, and this guy says, "Oh, it's my father-in-law's team, so I follow because then we live in New Jersey now." And Jay turns to the wife and how, is that right? She's like, "Yeah, we love the Jets. How do you feel about that?" Well, you know, he's just like not happy about it. It's like,
I saw a video on TikTok today. It was like a dad, like he had to explain the trades that happened to his kids, and his kids,
oh my gosh, he's just crying.
Like, I've just got a Sauce Gardner jersey. I'm like, oh my god, like that's the worst thing possible for them.
It reminds me, there was someone else who did that. Was it last year? Oh, there's another video of telling, I don't know, or maybe it was Micah Parsons at the start of the year. I can't remember.
It probably was like Micah Parsons.
Telling this poor kid that they've just traded someone away. And it's like, we did what? It's like these poor kids. Oh, man.
It's brutal. But it's part of the NFL. It's why we love it. It makes it exciting for all teams.
It is a business. There you go.
Right, let's move on to, I would say, quite a good trade for both teams. The Jaguars are trading for Raiders wide receiver Jacoby Myers. The Las Vegas Raiders receiving a 4th and 6th round pick in exchange for Jacoby Myers. What are your thoughts on this trade, Sam?
I like this. I think, so basically, let's be honest, I talked about this last week, didn't I? Jacoby Myers not having a great season, let's be real. But we saw a fantastic production last year. Good production the year before that. He's just got to find his feet again. I think a new change of scenery might help him do that, especially going to place Liam Cohen, great play caller. Trevor Lawrence, good quarterback, we hope. You know, keep it up, hopefully. But the thing is that Jacoby Myers is a fantastic possession receiver. And what do the Jacksonville Jaguars need? Someone who can catch the damn ball.
Someone that doesn't drop it.
If there's one thing I know about the Jags this season from a friend of mine who's a Jags fan, is that they need a receiver that's going to catch the ball reliably. And that's exactly what Jacoby Myers will hopefully bring to this team. And especially with Travis Hunter going out or going on to IR. And there's a lot of what's the word? There's a cloud over what kind of injury this is.
Yeah,
like we don't really know whether it's
very uncertain.
Exactly. Whether it's a 4-week IR, is it going to be 4-week IR come back? Is it going to be season ending? You know, because it happened in training, which I didn't realize. It was an injury in practice on Thursday or whatever it was. Obviously, you know, so they need a new receiver in the room, and they've had the drop issues with Brian Thomas this year. Bringing Jacoby Myers to be a very complementary piece to, you know, play possession ball. You know, those safe 5-yard catches. Just get them in second and mid, third and short. You know, that kind of thing. So I like this move for both teams, like you said. But I think for the Jags, this is nice because the Jags are in the playoff position. Let's be real. You know, we don't want to write off the division just yet, but they still have to play the Colts twice. So division's still on the cards, and they're definitely in the spot for a wild card position. So nice little move to help them on offense.
I think the big thing is, I want to talk about the Raiders first. They've cashed in on a player they were going to lose in free agency. That's brilliant for them.
Yeah.
They've gained a 4th and a 6th round pick for a player that's going to play 9 more games for them in ways.
Yeah.
So brilliant bit of business there.
Especially for a team not doing anything this year.
Exactly. You've got some pieces for the future. You're probably going to end up drafting a quarterback at the start of this season or next season. I think this is brilliant. You'll be able to get some depth there. As the 4th round pick, you might be able to pick up a linebacker, 6th round pick, a special teams player that could be, vital for the future. For the Jags, is like you said, brilliant. They've picked up their possession receiver. I want to talk about Jacoby Myers because you've got, again, a win to start with, because you've gone from a pretty bad team to a team that, yes, could scrape a wildcard space or even put pressure on that division title. My concern is that he hasn't then signed a deal immediately.
Yes.
So if I'm Jacoby Myers, whatever trade I would have agreed to, I don't know if there was no trade clause in the contract, probably wasn't. But if I was to agree to a trade, I'd want the second that news goes out that I've also signed a 2-3 year deal. Just to have some security. Now he has to go and prove himself that he is once again a reliable NFL wide receiver. The fact that he deserves a contract either with the Jags or with a different team afterwards. That's my only concern with this trade.
And it's interesting because a 4th and a 6th isn't massive compensation, but it's enough to be, for me, more than a 9-game rental and a postseason rental, right? So I would have expected them to give him a deal, even if it was just an extra year or so. But it's nice for a guy of his age. It's not easy, but it's cool to see him have to do that prove it half season now, and see how he will play going forward. He's a really interesting piece for fantasy football, isn't he? Because in fact, it wasn't you that just traded for him in our league, was it? It was indeed. I thought so. So he's an interesting piece going forward because we want to know. I'm
investing in the uncertainty
of
like what could come ahead. I'm not expecting him to do anything for probably the next 3 weeks. It's that little playoff push, and the Jags will need a big playoff push if they are to get this wild card spot. The health of Brian Thomas is up in the air. Health of Travis Hunter is obviously up in the air. He's going to get vital reps for this team. At the moment, it's him and De'Ami Brown. Obviously, Brian Thomas will probably end up being healthy and everything will be fine. So, it's kind of just a future investment. It might work out. It probably won't. So
I think Trevor will love him as well because he needs that possession receiver. And I think about Christian Kirk's first year in the Jags, where he was that slot receiver that would just catch everything for them. He was going to be a pair of safe hands for them to go to on third downs and when they need short yardage and things like that. I think Myers, I'm excited to see what he can do because I want him to produce more than he is this year. I really like Jacoby Myers as a receiver, so it'd be nice to see him end the season a little bit better than he started it.
Now, I would say the next trade would be a quick chat, but unfortunately we have a Ravens fan with us. We need to talk about the Ravens acquiring Titans' Draymond Jones for, what was it, a 5th round pick, Sam, was it?
I think so.
A conditional 5th.
I was going to say, I think it's conditional 5th that could go up
can
4th.
Become a 4th, yes.
I was so
Former
confused.
Bronco as well.
I thought we were going to go on to. I forgot who the next guy was. I've completely forgot about Draymond Jones. If I'm completely honest, it got lost in the mess of everything else. I'm excited for this one. I mean, God knows we need a pass rusher, and I think this isn't our best move. I think the one that's not going to get included in the trade deadline, but Alohi Gilman was a fantastic trade for us, even if it meant getting rid of Odafe Owe. But I think it's really nice to see a real win-win trade where Owe's gone and immediately started playing a lot better than he was for us. He had a 2-sack game this week, I think. And Gilman's come in and he's changed our defense around. Carl Hamilton's able to play in the box. Gilman's taken over the back end, and we're feeling very confident with where we are defensively compared to the first few weeks. But Draymond Jones, God knows we need pass rush. We need, I think we must have like a bottom 3 rank in pressure rates. I mean, just watching us try and pressure these. We're talking about the Dolphins' offensive line as well. Like we were. If we weren't blitzing an extra player or using some sort of deception, we weren't getting near to her. And when if you can't do it with the Dolphins in week 9, what are you going to do in a wild card round against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills? What are you going to do in a conference round against the Chiefs and Mahomes? You know what I mean? Like, you need a pass rush. And I like this move. I think Jerome Jones has been pretty decent to start the season. And, he's already had 19 pressures this year. And like I said, pressures is exactly what I want for our D-line. So
Yeah.
if it means that we can, have him taking the majority of snaps off the edge, especially with the way some of our depth guys have been playing pretty average, I'm happy with it.
Not the first time Draymond Jones has been traded in his NFL career. Was part of the infamous Russell Wilson trade from
really?
Denver to Seattle. I was
fantastic,
I quite liked Draymond Jones when he was on the Broncos. Obviously, he's an interior pass rusher. A defensive end in a 3-4 defense is what he plays.
Yeah.
And I think he does a very good job of that. I think he's a good player. You're not gonna get 10 sacks in a season for him, but if he can get to the 8-9 numbers in a season, that's a very good stat line for him. He didn't live up to the hype in Seattle. I think his better seasons were in Denver, but if you look at his start already this season, he's on for a career year. And the Titans have already said that they're moving on pieces. They know the outcome of this season, so I don't mind this move at all for either side. This is a smart move, and I assume that. Do you think the conditional is how far, or if you make playoffs, it'll be a fourth? That's my assumption.
It's always going to be either that or it's going to be some sort of statistic.
Yeah, if he gets 10
sacks in a year
10 sacks or something. Yeah.
So we'll see going forward. If it's something to do with getting further in the playoffs, then I'm fine with giving up the fourth if it means that we're doing well as a team.
Right, the final one, we actually know this too. I forgot one again. We've got the Jalen Phillips trade to the Eagles to talk about. Obviously, Jalen Phillips has moved from the Miami Dolphins to the Philadelphia Eagles, so a third-round pick. Harry Roseman masterclass once again. They are, just keep adding pieces to this defense. Keep making offensive stay on their toes of how they're going to adjust to which player they're bringing, which players are going to drop in coverage. You look at obviously Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter. You've got Jalen Phillips as well now. They've got so many pieces here, which are fantastic to watch. I'm really excited for what the Eagles are going to do now with this defensive front.
Yeah, I got asked if it was a good move and how good Jalen Phillips really is. And my immediate thought was just go watch him in his rookie season before the Achilles tear. And you see a real stud pass rusher. He was fantastic. So I feel like he's 2 years removed from that injury, I want to say.
Yes.
Like one full season and then this year.
And then we're moving on to it, yeah.
So, that's good news. It means we're starting to trend upwards, hopefully. And he's been playing decent this year. And we're talking about the Eagles pass rush that, would be more than happy to add another weapon to and make this defense even better than it already is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good move for both teams in ways the Miami Dolphins cashed in at probably the right time as opposed to spending money. Final trade, Raheed Shaheed has gone to the Seattle Seahawks for a 4th and a 5th round pick. I think this is a brilliant move for the Seahawks. You have this star player in JSN. Let's distract any defense with a go deep Hail Mary type player in, who's going to take the top of the defense in Shaheed. Brilliant pickup for them. Very, very happy with what they've done. For the Saints, you don't have to pay for a player when you're in cap hell. I think it's a good move for them as well. I'm very happy with how, this trade has gone down.
Miles, you've saved the best till last for me. I think, it's quite funny. We're talking about a team that, Darnold is throwing the deep ball better than anyone right now. Offensively, they've been fantastic. And it's funny with all these trades with first round picks and Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams, we're talking about these massive players. Rashid Shaheed to the Seahawks is such a good deal, man.
I think it's the best.
I think I couldn't have said it any better than you did. Just having a vertical flyer that's going to be, taking safeties out of the picture and having JSN work in those mid spaces. JSN could be even better, which is crazy to think. And Darnold, who is playing at an MVP level, who is, up there in the conversation, could be getting even better. It's awesome.
I'm going to make the boldest statement yet. I think JSN becomes the first receiver to get 2,000 yards. just because of this trade.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp hasn't lived up to the hype. If Cooper Kupp can operate in the slot, and then you've got Rashid Shaheed on the outside that can take the top of the defense, it will just open up that gap in the middle of the field for JSN, encourage, yards after the catch. I've already spoken so much about, JSN. I think he is the best receiver currently in the NFL. If you take out of, how the situation that Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase are in, they've obviously got lackluster quarterbacks playing for them. If you gave them their normal quarterbacks, they would be, by far the best. But JSN, he's the most informed player, should I say, at the moment. So I'm loving watching the Seahawks play.
It's definitely worth talking about the rest of the Seahawks as well, because it's not just JSN that benefits from it. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet have not really been fantastic this season. This could really help them by shifting defenses off the line of scrimmage, not allowing the safeties to crash into the box the same way to stop the run. And it also, maybe it benefits Cooper Kupp. I'm thinking more about AJ Barner and Elijah Arroyo, the tight ends, who are going to be able to play in that mid space. Again, it's just expanding the defense out, giving them more room to work with in the middle. And the Seahawks, let's be real, I was watching, I think it was the official NFL.com power rankings last night. They had the Seahawks number 1. And I don't think that's the craziest statement to make, because the defense is fantastic. And this is the thing. We knew the defense was going to be fantastic. It's Mike McDonald. It's, they've got pieces all over the board. But it was whether the offense could keep up. And I was worried when Sam Darnold did that contract. And I was like, I'm not sure that Darnold will operate that well outside of Minnesota. Boy, has he proved me wrong. He looks awesome this year. The offense looks great. If there was one thing I wish they could do, it would be to compound this trade with a trade for some guard from someone.
That's all I was going to add. Yeah.
They just need a right
guard. That's all they need.
Yeah.
And then they'd be
maybe there's someone who wants to get off the sofa and come out and play and still be good. I don't know. But
Zach Martin's just retired as well. That'd be a good one to go get off. Could you imagine?
Zach, right, come on, man.
You've got one shot at Super Bowl, Zach. That'd be awesome. That'd be really cool.
That would be a story.
To finish off the trade segment, we've got to talk about just a few losers in ways. Breece Hall being one, missed out on a trade to the Chiefs. The Patriots probably a loser. They didn't go out and grab a running back or a key wide receiver. Same with the Denver Broncos. They could have easily done with the wide receiver piece. Tony Pollard, I would say, is another loser. Missed out on a trade. Chris Olave missed out on a trade. Garrett Wilson missed out on a trade. There's so many big players that missed out on potential trades at this deadline.
And just a note on Breece Hall, though, I think Breece Hall is just as much of a loser as the Chiefs are. The Chiefs not being willing to pay the asking price of a third-round pick. I'm fine with a third-round pick for Breece Hall. I know it's a bit of a contract thing, I think, in his final year now, right, Breece Hall, which I guess obviously plays into it and why they didn't want to give up the big pick. But the Chiefs are still in dynasty mode, and they're still a top team. Just because they lost to the Bills this week, they still look great, and the one thing that's missing is the run game. Breece Hall would definitely invigorate that team. And also, what about a fourth and sending Pacheco the other way? Pacheco's
not a bad move.
Pacheco's another player who, if you're going to bring Breece Hall in, you don't really need Pacheco, and maybe it'll cheapen the deal a bit. But then saying that, the Jets probably not interested in Pacheco. Maybe they just don't see any sort of value in him.
I kind of agree. I think, you only spent a 7th on Pacheco. You're not going to get much back for him. I think even a 4th and Pacheco would not have been enough to get Breece Hall. They wanted that 3rd-round pick for him. How should we proceed, Sam? Because it's taken 40 minutes to do all this. Shall we have a little roundup of the game? Should we have a little touch on the games?
I've got an idea, Miles. I've got a fantastic idea. What we're going to do is we're going to do our best to fly through these games, because as you said, we're already deep into our episode, and we've got a lot of games covered, because this was a fantastic week, wasn't it?
It was.
We're talking about lots and lots of one-score games. I think it was only Niners-Giants, I want to say, is the only non-one-score game. Oh, Rams-Saints, of course.
Rams-Saints,
from the Sunday Red Zone slate. So what I'm going to do, Miles, is I'm going to set a... What'd you say, 10-minute timer, 15-minute timer?
I'd say, 10 minutes. We're just going to try and rattle through as much as we can.
And we're going to see if we can get through all of the games in 10 minutes, which is going to be a nice little test for us, and try not to over-talk. But I tell you what, let's see how good we are at
I say we don't get out the 6 o'clock slate, but here we go.
That's not the confidence. Go on, right. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Miles, I'll let you lead off. Your time starts... Damn it.
We missed the button.
Now.
Okay, so started off Thursday Night Football. Ravens versus the Dolphins. Ravens convincing win. I think that was needed, Sam, wasn't it?
Absolutely. We needed a dominant win. I don't think we were fantastic in the first half. Great second half performance. Defense looks great. Kyle Hamilton's the best safety in the league. And it's nice to see Derrick Henry getting 100 yards again.
Yes, absolutely. Bears, Bengals. Wow, what a game this was. 47-42. It came down to a crucial drive at the end of the game for the Chicago Bears to win it. Joe Flacco, the unluckiest man in football, throwing 4 touchdowns, almost 500 yards and failing to get the win. The Bears had 4 different players throw the football. This is an incredible game. Carmenunga almost went for 200. Colson Loveland went for 100. What a game this was.
This is the one that's going to be a struggle to get through quickly, because not just a crucial drive at the end of the game, Miles. There was about 5 crucial drives to finish that game, wasn't there? Back and forth. We just couldn't believe it. Late touchdown by the Bears. Late touchdown by the Bengals. Bengals come back. Onside kicks. The Yoshivas touchdown.
Yeah.
Just as you're thinking, okay, the Bears just need to get to field goal range. Loveland says, no one can tackle me. I'm prime Gronk, and gets his way all the way into the end zone. And yeah, this is 2 teams that apparently don't have a defense, but have some fantastic offenses. Ben Johnson was absolutely in his bag with the play calls. That Cole Kmet under center toss to Caleb was fantastic. There's just so much that was so good about this game, and this was prime NFL football, wasn't it?
It was.
No defense, which is a shame.
Yeah.
But hey, if you want to see an offensive masterclass, God, look no further.
I think the offensive masterclass that just run up the scores are always the best games. You look back to Chiefs, Rams, and all those games that go over 50 points. This was one of them. No defense being played is entertaining football. If we talk about fourth quarters, how they've gone this season, obviously we've had the Broncos Giants being one of the best. I'd actually say this game beats it in the amount of lead changes that occurred this game. Fantastic bit of football that was on show to start Sunday.
31 points in the fourth quarter.
That's amazing. It really is. We need to talk about the Minnesota Vikings beating the Detroit Lions. It wasn't the prettiest game for JJ McCarthy, but getting the job done in Ford Field is a big, big statement for the Minnesota Vikings. Back to winning ways, back to challenging for that playoff spot. Massive win for them.
Yeah, so necessary. A big knock to the Lions in their playoff seeding, something they really didn't need. Nice to see how much this Vikings locker room loves JJ McCarthy, man. They want him to be the future of their team. They rally behind him. And like you said, it wasn't pretty, but if there's one thing he did well, that final throw to Jalen Naylor for the first down to seal the game was picture perfect. The catch by Naylor was fantastic. Gutsy win for the Vikings, just what they needed. On the Lions side, one of my interesting notes, I'm a bit annoyed that we have to rattle through it because I really want to go into depth with it. Jahmyr Gibbs cannot pass protect against linebackers.
Nope,
it was really interesting to see in this game. He gave up 2 sacks, 5 pressures, something like that. And it's something that's going to eat into his workload. We always say, if you're going to be a running back, you've got to be able to pass block. And now Monty, known for being a great pass blocker, do we see Gibbs lose a few of those snaps? He's such a fantastic player, but you've got to be able to protect your QB. And if you're letting Jared Goff take hits and get pressured, while Monty could be protecting him, it could affect the snap share going forward.
Absolutely. I do think it will as well. Panthers beat the Green Bay Packers 16-13 in Lambeau. With the Detroit Lions needing a win to actually take over the Green Bay Packers, they failed to do that. The Packers then lose against the Panthers. Every bit of seeding change happens there. The Carolina Panthers come up with a clutch win. Rico Dowdle, what a player you've turned out to be. 25 carries, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a couple of pumps to go along with it. Fair play, Rico Dowdle.
I would like to say I called it. I said it was a great move for the Panthers, but yeah, whatever. Panthers have a winning record, 5-4, unbelievable. Rico Dowdle is the best player in NFL history. It's fantastic for the Panthers. I can't believe that they're able to knock off the Packers here.
I think Jordan Love might have overtaken Tua Tagovailoa for the worst pass of the NFL season as well. A dreadful, dreadful play to basically throw the game away in the end. The LA Chargers beat the Tennessee Titans 27-20. It wasn't convincing by either team, I don't think. Obviously, the Tennessee Titans got most of their points from special teams and defense. The Chargers probably needed the win, made it more difficult than they should have done. But fair play for getting the win and moving to 6-3.
Yeah, nice to be in 6-3, but again, not convinced by him. I'm worried about a late season skid or just going into the playoffs and not really being a contender. Yeah, exactly. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. They traded for Trevor Penning. Oh, so exciting. Chargers. That's going to fix everything.
Should have mentioned that. My bad. We'll move on to the New England Patriots beating the Atlanta Falcons 24-23. Drake London, 3 touchdowns, 100 yards in the air. Really good performance from him, but missed kick at the end of the game really seals it for the Atlanta Falcons. After releasing Young Wei Koo, it's shot themselves in the foot once again.
Well, yeah, Ko wasn't good enough. It feels like Parker Romo is not good enough either. They might need to go into the kicker market once again. This is a game of two halves. Patriots were outstanding in the first half, absolutely dominant. They were really poor in the second half. Falcons make the comeback. Drake London, dominant. This is what I wanted to see at the start of the year. Hopefully continues it for the rest of the season.
Niners beat the Giants 34-24. Not going to talk about this much. Giants aren't the same team without Cam Scatterboo. The Colts lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers 27-20. Got close towards the end. The Colts actually had a chance to level it up. They couldn't quite convert. Surprised here. Well, actually, I did predict this, Sam, in our weekly predictions that the Steelers would win.
Really
just vintage Rodgers. That's all you need. Vintage Rodgers. He comes out and performs. Daniel Jones, 5 turnovers. Crazy stat line.
6 total by the Colts as well, which is just mental. This is what the Steelers defense needed. They were giving up the most yards per game or something like that coming into this. The Colts had like the most yards gained in the league. So these two forces coming together, this is not what we were expecting. And it's worrying. They held JT in check, and that's what's so important. I think the linebackers, Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson, isn't it? They did a fantastic job. Is Peyton Wilson the other Steelers linebacker?
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
second you go.
That's right. Yeah, they did a fantastic job keeping the offensive line from getting big pushes and making the space for Jonathan Taylor. Steelers, this is a huge win for them in their hopes to keep hold of that AFC North title.
Yes, rattling through the 9 o'clock slate because it was pretty poor. Broncos barely beat the Texans. Really scrappy game there. Jags, overtime win against the Raiders, 30-29. Saints, obviously no competition there against the Rams. Big game here, though. Bills beat the Chiefs. Josh Allen, vintage. Patrick Mahomes throwing the late pick to Maxwell Hairston, the rookie, getting his first interceptions. Great first interception against Patrick Mahomes. That's an awesome one to tell the future grandchildren.
Absolutely.
It was kind of predicted, though, the Bills would get the win in their home stadium. This is a big statement for the Bills. They need to apply pressure to the New England Patriots. Never thought you'd say that this season for the division title, but fair play, Buffalo.
Yeah, this is the win that they needed. This was their regular season Super Bowl. We see it every year. I thought, it has to be said, Mahomes was fantastic. He did everything he could. He had it really hard with the pass rush. Joey Bosa had one of the best games of his career, let alone this season. The pass rush really made it difficult for Mahomes. He was doing everything to hang in the pocket, convert on these big third downs and whatnot. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe how well Mahomes was playing, but just not enough to stop Josh Allen and this Bills offense. And with that, Miles, we're at our 2-minute warning.
We did well. 2-minute warning.
Warning.
Okay, we got time. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Commanders 38-14. Big news though. Jaden Daniels. What was it? Dislocated elbow. There's probably some more damage. There hasn't really been any news out of it. Yeah. Brutal injury. But yeah, it doesn't look good for the Commanders' rest of the season.
And also, why is he in the game?
Agreed.
The game is done.
Dan Quinn held his hand up and said he shouldn't have been in the game.
That's good. And that's what I'd expect from him. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's rough. And, the Seahawks, again, this is just one of those performances, like I said earlier, they look dominant. They look like one of the best teams in the league. Offense and defense, complementary football. They're so good on both sides. I can't wait to see what they're going to do in the playoffs.
And finally, the Cardinals beat the Cowboys 27-17. They need to continue with Jacoby Brissett as their quarterback. That is the only statement that needs to be made for this game.
Oh my goodness, Miles. It doesn't sound right just because of this idea of where Kyler should be in his career, but he has done better. And Jacoby Brissett, we knew this, didn't we? We knew he was a decent backup and he could have these games where he can game manage and do a good job. I'm a little surprised, I would say, that this is the way it's going with the Cardinals, that maybe he should be keeping the job over Kyler. And like I said earlier about the Cowboys, the offense is fantastic. Look at the numbers that CeeDee Lamb and Pickens are putting up together. Jake Ferguson was contributing. Javonte Williams, 83 yards is still good. But just, again, the defense is not doing enough to to stop opposing offenses. And I tell you what, I think you mentioned Deron Bland earlier. So he had 14 total tackles this week. I feel like when your corner has the most tackles,
he was catching up for every player that you let past.
Usually means he's not doing a good job in coverage.
Absolutely. Hey, what was the time? That is good.
Miles,
podcasts don't need to be this long, do they?
we're on 5 seconds. I tell you what, we've absolutely smashed that. That's the way FDT does their 10-minute roundup. Proud of that one.
Right. To finish off the episode, Sam, we are going to go over our predictions for the awards. We are halfway through the season. It's about time we did a little check-in, and then who we think is going to win it. We'll move on to the MVP. It was, mine was open-ended. I said Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, or Lamar Jackson. They've both been injured. Josh Allen is probably the one that you could claim. Yeah. He's currently the front runner. I can't remember who you went for, Sam.
I think I went for Burrow. I'm going to have to go find it.
So, Josh Allen's leading it. Drake May's second, and Patrick Mahomes is currently third, Sam. Is there, going forward, who are you taking here for this award?
For MVP, Miles, and I've just got to stand by my roots. Jonathan Taylor's still the most valuable player in this league. I'm sorry, but we saw this week what happens when Jonathan Taylor gets held in check and the team crumbles apart behind him. So, in my eyes, and I know, like we've moved to a QB award, and very much so. Josh Allen, Drake May, Mahomes, Stafford, Darnold, all of these guys very much should be, MVP caliber players. But in my eyes, the odds I'm seeing here, I've got Herbert, Mayfield, Hurts, Love, Lamar, and Jonathan. All ahead of Jonathan Taylor. Yeah. Should not be the case. It
shouldn't. I do agree with that.
And my one other note on it as well. I don't know about you. I feel like I'm talking really fast because I'm trying to go into
We're still doing the 10-minute.
Yeah. My one thing with Jonathan Taylor is one bad game doesn't stop you winning MVP.
It doesn't. No.
Last year, Josh Allen had bad games. Lamar had bad games the year before that. You don't have to be absolutely perfect. You just have to be as perfect as possible. I think JT has been so unbelievably good this year. His odds should not be that low.
I'm in a really tough situation because I kind of want to say the MVP award should be the Indianapolis Colts offensive line. Because, like we said, some of the holes that they've been creating is an absolute joke. Any running back could run through it. I just don't think any running back could then have the numbers and the longevity that Jonathan Taylor is going to have throughout this season. So I get why people are saying it, but the Indianapolis Colts offensive line has been phenomenal. I'm going to put up a completely different player. I'm actually going to say Matthew Stafford deserves MVP.
Love it.
Going forward. I think without Matthew Stafford, this is a completely different team. I think you look at the way he's dissecting defenses, he's doing it probably the best he has ever done it throughout his NFL career. And I think that's why. And I almost feel like it's, he deserves one. You can't have this long career and not have one. I feel like Matthew Stafford actually does deserve one.
It would be...
It's a great
one of those things where I just love to see him up on that stage.
Yeah,
I'd love
it'd be
to
really
see
cool.
him taking that award home.
Awesome. He won the Super Bowl. He didn't even get Super Bowl MVP that year, but to finish with the league MVP, it would really be the crowning thing to Matthew Stafford's career.
Yeah, a really cool stat I had for the game for the Rams based off the Saints game as well. Stafford's got 13 goal-to-go passing touchdowns this year, which is 4 more than any other quarterback.
Awesome.
That's just how good he is down by
in
the
red
goal
zone.
line.
He just dissects defenses. It's
absolutely.
So
it also does help though when you have Devontae Adams, who has 5 touchdowns in his last 2 games. Miles. Distances of them: 3-yard touchdown, 4-yard touchdown, 2-yard touchdown, and 2 1-yard touchdowns.
But that's why they spent the money this offseason. They made
exactly.
The right
it's a fantastic.
That's what Stafford wanted. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Offensive player of the year, I went Jahmyr Gibbs. Who did you go for, Sam?
I went CeeDee Lamb. I still feel good in that position, in that pick, but I don't think it's going to work out on account
I don't think either two are winning that award.
Who was yours again, sorry?
Mine was Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't think either of them are going to win it. It's either Jonathan Taylor or Jackson Smith and Jigba. If Jonathan Taylor doesn't win MVP, it'll be Jackson Smith and Jigba. If Jackson Smith and Jigba gets 2,000 yards and Jonathan Taylor doesn't, that's the only way I could see him getting above him going forward.
It's a shame because Puka was the guy, really, it felt like. But I think the injuries are holding him back. CMC's been fantastic. Let's not forget about that. And I think if the Niners were doing better record-wise and winning a few more games, CMC's on the same level as JT, it feels like, in terms of MVP value. I don't think he's quite as high up the list, but everything's going behind CMC for the Niners. So, he's definitely up there. But yeah, I think you're right. JT at JSN, it's got to be at this point.
Defensive player of the year, Sam. I can't even remember who I put for this. I think I said Will Anderson Jr.
I think you did. Yeah, you did. I said Aiden Hutchinson.
Both players top 5. We're not doing
indeed.
too bad on that. They're not doing too bad. Aiden Hutchinson third, Will Anderson in 5th. I think, though, it will go to Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I mean, Myles Garrett. So odds I have here is Micah in 1st, Myles Garrett in 2nd. It doesn't really feel like we've got a strong contender yet.
We don't.
It doesn't feel like a real standout in the same way that Jonathan Taylor and JSN are. So it's interesting.
It's open. Yeah, it's definitely open.
It's weird seeing TJ Watt so far down the list.
I know, but he hasn't been. Okay, he had a good game this week, but he still hasn't been as effective as previous seasons. Offensive Rookie of the Year, I think you went Emeka Egbuka and I went Tessero McMillan. Both top 5. Jackson Dart is the favourite. I think Emeka Egbuka will win the award.
I think Egbuka would be who I that's where I'm stood right now. I would say Egbuka should be having it. Dart, I think we're going to see a production fall off without Scatterbo and without Malik Neighbors. So I think that's what's going to hold him back for the numbers a little bit. But in terms of the rest of that top 5, Tyler Warren in 3rd, Quinshon Judkins in 5th. They're those kind of guys that Judkins, I don't think will get it, but he's, easily one of the best rookies this season.
Yeah. If Judkins started from week 1, I think he'd be in the conversation.
100%.
Just missed a few games and that killed him. So
and Tyler Warren's been fantastic. He's been so reliable for the Colts.
Absolutely. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Abdul Carter is the favourite. I can't even remember who I put for this. I wouldn't be surprised if we both went Abdul Carter.
I think you went with... Did you go Mason Graham? I can't remember.
I went Mike Green.
Well, I was going to say I went Mike Green.
Yes, that was correct.
Unfortunately...
Just hasn't played.
He missed. Well, yeah, he missed. He missed. He didn't really get the starters reps at the start of the year. He's getting more time. Got his first sack. I think it was against the Bears last week, but I haven't quite seen the kind of dominance I was hoping for. Although, showing flashes, which is what's important as a rookie.
That's the big thing.
So I'm happy with that. The rest of that top 5. So we've got Abdul Carter, Jahad Campbell, Nick Emenwari in 3rd, which is awesome, by the way. We were very vocal about how much we loved him in the draft lead.
Talk louder.
Yeah, hey, happily talk about Nick Emenwari.
I'd say 3rd and 4th are my 2 favourites there. Nick Emenwari and Carson Schweschinger. Yeah. I think I really like with how these 2 rookies are playing. I think Nick Emenwari's played better than Jihad Campbell. It's just, the team is doing better. That's the reason why he's that high.
Yeah.
Nick Emenwari, man, what a player.
I find it really funny that Malachi Starks here is 6th, where I've seen a lot of slander towards Starks where he, I don't think he's been outstanding. I'm surprised he's that high up, to be honest. Maybe it's just the lack of candidates around him. But I was quite surprised to see him that high up the list.
Head coach of the year, Sam. I think I went Liam Cohen. I can't remember who you went.
I went for Sean McVay. Who is way down in the odds, which is a shame because, the Rams
they're both next to each other in the odds, actually.
They are indeed,
the front runner by a mile is Shane Steichen, and I think if the Colts continue this and win the division, he will win that. I wouldn't be afraid to put a bit of money on Mike Vrabel, though. He's right up there as well.
He's up there too,
and also Mike McDonald if he wins the thing as well. Comeback Player of the Year, I have no clue who I went for here. Dak Prescott, the favourite, joint favourite with Christian McCaffrey, actually. Christian McCaffrey,
I went for Dak.
Yeah, if he goes 1,000.
I can't remember who you went for. Yeah.
I think I went Dak.
Did you go for Hutch?
Might have gone Hutch. I'm pretty sure I went Dak, but yeah, I think Dak will win the award. Quarterback bias obviously comes into this. If he comes back and throws for God knows how many yards with that offense, I think he'll be fine. And then Protector of the Year, I think I said Lane Johnson, Sam.
I was going to say I've got Lane Johnson as well. And I think I remember us going the same. I haven't got the odds here though. If you got the odds,
there's no odds. But I want to bring up. Let me be a bit biased for a second, Sam.
Yeah,
I think Garrett Bowles deserves the award.
Not as much as Roddy Stanley might know.
Garrett Bowles is was notoriously known for his holding. He's done a phenomenal job this year. 0 sacks allowed all year, 7 pressures allowed all season, and a 90 pass block grade for PFF. Puts him second in all categories. I couldn't tell you who's first, but I would just like to say that he's done a very good job in turning his career around.
He has. And I don't know how up to date these odds are. I'd love to know. I think. Oh, okay. Accurate as of start of the season, so that doesn't help us in the slightest. I was going to say Panay Sewell was at the top, but I imagine he's probably near the top in the up to date ones anyway.
But then again, I'd like to say Quentin Nelson should be up there. If you're talking about
absolutely,
if you're talking about players creating holes for running backs, he's number one. So. I'm trying to find the same thing. It just says Panay Sewell as well for me. Unfortunately, nothing going.
Unfortunately, no one cares about this award, which is a shame because that was the whole point of bringing it in, was that we want it to be exciting. But never mind.
But anyway, that wraps up this episode of Fall Down Territory. What a whirlwind episode it was.
It. This is
we reviewed trade deadlines, weekly reviews, awards as well. What a roundup it was. Make sure you're following us on all of our socials, FDT_podcast, and we'll see you all next week for Week 10 round.